All right, what's up, guys? Brian here, and this is my GFW Impact Destination X review for last night's episode of Destination X for GFW. I'm actually doing this off my phone because I'm trying to figure out what is going on with the camera I have set up on my computer. So let's get right into it. We started off with a GFW Knockouts title match. It was Sienna defending against Gail Kim. Of course, Gail Kim making the promise that she was gonna when she retires, she was gonna retire as Knockouts champion. This matchup last night, I actually thought was pretty good. The ending, though, obviously sets up a feud for Gail Kim moving forward, as we saw the return of Taryn Terrell, who got involved and cost Gail Kim her opportunity to become the Knockouts champion. So obviously Taryn Terrell is back in GFW, and she is targeting Gail Kim for whatever reason. Moving on, checking my notes here, we had an in-ring segment with Bruce Prichard. Of course, earlier this week, we found out that Alberto El Patron was stripped of the GFW Global Championship because of those issues that he's been having with elsewhere with the domestic issues he's been having. Bruce Prichard came out last night on Impact on Destination X, basically said that that it was up to him to determine who's going to be the new champion. He would then call out and try to present the championship to Lashley. Lashley did not make an appearance, but we saw the return of Jim Cornette, who basically came out. Him and Bruce Prichard started going at it, talking about how they were friends. Jim Cornette then informed Bruce Prichard that he was fired, and Bruce Prichard threw a fit, saying, this you haven't heard the last of this, that this is the end of things. Security took Bruce Prichard out of the arena. Jim Cornette then announced that next week on Impact, there's going to be a 20-man gauntlet for the gold, where the winner will become the new GFW Global Champion. So that is a huge matchup for next week. LAX would come out. Of course, Low Key, the newest member of LAX, was supposed to face Alberto El Patron for the championship last night, but because of the whole situation with Patron being stripped of the title, Low Key did not get his shot. But Jim Cornette told Low Key that next week he'll be in that gauntlet for the gold, and that he would come in at number 20. So next week, Low Key is going to have a big advantage coming in at number 20 for the in that gauntlet for the gold. Then later on in the night, in a couple of segments, a lot of different superstars were coming up to Cornette saying they wanted to be in the gauntlet for the gold. EC3, Moose, Chris Adonis, Eli Drake were all put in. Eli Drake was actually made number 1. So next week, in that gauntlet for the gold, Eli Drake will be number 1 in there, and Low Key will be number 20. But moving on in this review, we had the finals of the Super X Cup. It was Ishimori taking on Desmond Xavier. This was actually a pretty good matchup as well. Both men, defeating very good competition to advance to this point. And this was a pretty good matchup, in my opinion. That saw Desmond Xavier win with a jumping leg kick, double foot kick to Ishimori to finally put him down. So big congratulations go out to Desmond Xavier for winning the Super X Cup. He then would get on the mic and say that he's coming for the X Division title, and I'll get into that in just a moment. We had another backstage clip of Bruce Prichard being escorted out of the building. He would run into Karen Jarrett. He would start yelling at her, saying that this is what she wanted. Karen Jarrett started yelling back at Bruce Prichard, saying, "You'll never step foot in this building again," all this stuff. So, obviously, hopefully this does not lead to a power struggle or something like that, where Bruce Prichard comes back and says, "You can't fire me," and all this stuff. And then I just hope that doesn't work. That's not where it's leading to. We had Grado and Joseph Park. Joseph Park walked up to Grado and basically told Grado that next week he gets to say his goodbyes. With the whole, being deported storyline they got going with him. We had the X Division title on the line in a ladder match. It was the champion Sanjay Dutt defending against Trevor Lee. This has been building for the last few weeks. Trevor Lee, of course, stealing the X Division title from Sanjay Dutt. Even though he didn't win it, he stole the title from him. And this was Sanjay Dutt's revenge on Trevor Lee. This was an okay matchup, in my opinion. We did see some interference. Caleb Conley would come out and try to help Trevor Lee regain the X Division title. We would also see the return of P.D. Williams, a former X Division champion. He would go after Caleb Conley, hit him with the Canadian Destroyer, and then Trevor Lee would try to climb up the ladder. Sanjay Dutt would jump over the rope, onto the ladder, start punching Trevor Lee, knocking him off the ladder. Trevor Lee would land back first onto another ladder that was laying in the ring as well, and that was enough for Sanjay Dutt to retrieve the championship and retain the X Division title. So hopefully this feud is over with between these two. We saw the debut of a new tag team, OVE, Ohio versus everything or everyone. Okay showing by these two. I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but they did pick up the win in a tag team match. And that brings us to the main event, which was Shot versus Shot. It was Lashley versus Matt Seidel in a match where the winner would get a title shot at a championship of his choosing. And this was a pretty much David versus Goliath match. Lashley, of course, having the strength and power, and Seidel having the speed. Lashley using his power to, ground Seidel at certain points in this match, and Seidel not giving up, kicking out of everything that Lashley threw at him, until finally Lashley was getting frustrated. He brought in a steel chair. He would try to use it on Seidel. The referee would get the chair away from Lashley, but then Lashley would take the chair back from the referee, and Seidel would hit a spinning kick to the chair to Lashley's face, and that was enough. Seidel would then try to hit the shooting star press. Lashley would get the knees up and would try to go for the spear in the corner, but Seidel moved out of the way and rolled up Lashley for the 1-2-3, and scored a big victory over Lashley, that being Matt Seidel. And thus he'll be getting an opportunity probably at the X Division title. So that was a big victory for Matt Seidel over Lashley. Afterwards, members of America's Top Team, one of the members of that group would go after the referee. Of course, America's Top Team is associated with Lashley. One of the members would go after the referee, would grab him, start choking him. Lashley would break it up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week as far as that situation is concerned. But overall, my thoughts on last night's Destination X, I thought it was actually a pretty good show last night. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next week with the Gauntlet for the Gold. One other thing I forgot to mention, I don't want to forget, is that we found out that making his debut next week as well will be Lucha Underground Johnny Mundo, but his name is going to be Johnny Impact, I think is what his name is going to be. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with kind of impact he's going to make next week. Will he be a part of that Gauntlet for the Gold? We'll have to wait and see. But my thoughts on last night's Destination X, I thought it was actually a pretty good show. There were a couple of good matches. So with that being said, if you guys did not watch Destination X last night, I would recommend judging for yourself to see what you guys think of it. If you guys did watch it, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on it. So with that being said, this has been my review and my thoughts on what took place on last night's GFW Destination X. As always, I am Brian, and thank you for watching.